What's up and good morning, War Report family. Your guy, Ike Jones. We are back with another morning drop. Dead period's done. Auburn is alive and well out here on the recruiting trail. We'll talk about it right here, War Report style. Y'all know how we do it. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop time. It is Wednesday, May 31st, last day of May here, and we are talking a little bit of Auburn football and recruiting news down on the plains. Dead period's done. The morning drop right here. You got Ike Jones, Mike G, brought to you by Rogue Shop. Make sure you guys go over to rogueshop.com using code RAPPORT. And that's going to lock you guys in for a little something off your purchase. America's #1 online dispensary is the Rogue Shop. So head to rogueshop.com. Again, using code RAPPORT. That lets them know that you guys at the War Report sent you. Mike G, how we feeling this morning, man?
Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. This is recruiting news. We're getting back into that. We're getting back into that frame where coaches are going to start to get active. They had meetings down in Destin, I believe it was, to talk about the 9-game schedule. And things are going to start to move here in college football going into fall camp. So ready to get into it.
Yeah, I can't wait till we start talking about some fall camp battles that are going to be intriguing. That's going to be interesting conversation. But new players already down on the plains that are going to be here for this 23 season. So we've had move-in day for all the new guys. Very good stuff happening right there. They're going to start their workouts next week, right? So we're about a week out from the guys getting in and starting their summer workouts. But what we want to talk about is the 24 class. Right now, Auburn has 5 commits in the 2024 class. All of them are 4-star commits, depending upon where you check it out. There might be a high 3-star, but 4-star commits for the most part. We're using Rivals to look at that. So 4-star commitments for this class, putting them ranked at number 31 currently.
That's all right.
But
that's all right.
Far from done yet with only having 5 in the bank. And what's been interesting is the development with some of the guys that are already committed elsewhere, but are now giving Auburn a look without them having put a single bit of film out there. I think it's interesting, the sell job that is happening. I love what's happening with young Walker White, who is out there really on the forefront of trying to get guys to at least give them a look. Hey, just come and see what we got cooking up down here. I love what he's doing. But your thoughts on where the class is right now and where it could potentially go?
Listen, so we have kind of what I would call a truncated recruiting period, because it was kind of wait till next February to see what's happening. Now kids are having to make decisions going into their senior year, right? Graduate early, try to get into spring camp, and be committed someplace by December in the early signing period. So, things have sped up quite a bit, Isaac. When it comes to, I have to get somewhere, I got to find a home.
Yeah,
I have to find a home. And as a result, slots are filling up. So if you're one of those kids who's a top tier kid, there's always going to be a spot for you, right? If you're kind of one of those fringe kids and there's a program, you have to be careful, I think, about waiting too long to commit to some place, because, people are going to be trying to fill up their rosters super early in this new world that is recruiting in college football. So Hugh Freeze has 5 commits in this class, right? Like you said, they're ranked 31. The ranking is not that important right now. I mean, Alabama has the 15th ranked class, Clemson is 16. I mean, we know these schools aren't going to finish where they're at right now. So nobody should be flipping out about a ranking at this point. But the interest from the athletes, which we will get into, that are now giving Auburn a look, is something I think that fans need to pay attention to. Hugh Freeze has to win back the state of Alabama to some extent. Right. He's got to get in there, and he's got to get his fair share of athletes from inside his backyard. I think that's where his rivals have been. His rivals, but Auburn's rivals have been whooping them good and soundly. And those kids are coming through on the field, and they're the difference between winning and losing Iron Bowls, in Tuscaloosa. So it's time to get back at that. And I think we see some evidence that Hugh Freeze is moving that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you teased it a little bit. Let's talk about some of the guys who have expressed interest in Auburn. And what I love about these guys most is not their star rating, right? Because, I'm not a guy caught up on star rating. What I love most about them is the audacity of this team and this coaching staff, the recruiting staff, to say, okay, yeah, you verbally committed somewhere. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's start with KJ Bolden, right? KJ
Mhm.
Bolden is a guy who's listed as an athlete, two-way guy, potentially could be a two-sport athlete, but currently committed to Georgia, and is a five-star recruit. And he's a dynamic guy, but he's had some positive things to say about what Coach Hugh Freeze and this staff have cooking up down on the plains, and he's potentially interested. Now, he has not given, he hasn't done what these next couple of guys we're going to talk about in a minute have done. But any thoughts on KJ Bolden?
This is a kid from Beaufort, Georgia, and the recruiting grounds. Any Auburn coach knows getting your fair share of athletes from Alabama and the state of Georgia is going to be important to building a good class. Georgia is practically Auburn's backyard. Beaufort, if you're familiar, with the Georgia area, is fairly close. The driving distance. I mean, these guys know what and who Auburn is. They've seen Auburn tags driving around their town all their life, and they've been waiting for an opportunity for Auburn to join the discussion in terms of, this might be a good place for me to go play. It's not been a premier destination for athletes and wide receivers. I like KJ Bolden. This is going to be an interesting flip. His list right now is Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, right? Amongst almost every other team in the country, but the notable ones. His recruiter at Alabama is Travaris Robinson, former Auburn guy, former classmate of ours. Screw you, Travaris. And Zach Edwards and Josh Aldridge are on him at Auburn for the recruiting process under Hugh Freeze. So Zach Edwards is going to get in there and try to sell the program, try to sell, the vision. And depending on what they put on the field this year, it could be a very effective pitch. I'm telling you, Vegas has set the over-under for Auburn at 6.5. I think if you get to the over and you have some positive things happen, these guys start to give Auburn a serious look. So, I think personally, this kid's commitment is going to come down to what can you show me this year for KJ Bolden.
Yeah, and we already know that Georgia is going to put a good product on the field. So it's got to be Auburn's got work to do to just prove, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Can you join along with what we've got as far as our momentum is concerned?
You could be one of one at Auburn. Like you can be, KJ Bolden can come now and be one of one at Auburn, or you could be one of five at Georgia. And, when you talk about these kids who are rated five-star prospects, these are supposed to be your can't-miss guys, right? So KJ Bolden is supposed to be a guy that comes in, and if he doesn't have an impact as a freshman, as a sophomore, he's playing. Right. That's what your five-star guys are supposed to do in college football. So, Hugh Freeze can say, hey, man, you could be one of one here. Right. Or you could be one of five there. But if I can show you that one of one at Auburn is better than one of five and earlier, plus NIL, plus, Auburn's just a better place, right? Like, I can get a kid like KJ Bolden to really, really reconsider whether going to back-to-back national championship Georgia is the right move for him, or, come down the road, down 85 to Auburn, an hour and a half, man, and play some football.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Auburn win some of these recruiting battles. Getting the looks is good, but I'm looking forward to seeing them win a couple of these battles. The next guy I want to talk about is another defensive player, and that is Jalen Embach, the corner out of Pinson, Alabama. He is currently a verbal commit to Alabama, to the University of Alabama in Turd Town, and he has already scheduled an official visit, though, to Auburn. So he's coming down here in a couple of weeks to check out what's going to be happening during the summer. Any thoughts on the young man from Pinson?
Listen, flipping is going to be a part of the game. You get your special out, get to the Waffle House, tell them to flip some pancakes. Hopefully, Hugh Freeze is flipping pancakes this summer. And Mbakwe just giving Auburn a look, again, I think underscores the excitement that Hugh Freeze's staff is generating around recruiting, because these kids are about to make the biggest decisions they're going to make of their life, right? And they want to get it right the first time. Now, the transfer portal has afforded them, an oopsie when it comes to choosing a school. But you're talking about another five-star kid. You're talking about another can't-miss prospect that could come in and be a shutdown corner for you. And, again, Pinson, Alabama, in-state, I can't stress enough, winning your backyard matters. So we've now discussed 2 5-stars within a couple hundred miles of Auburn that you have to be in the discussion for these kids, and you've got to go out and you got to win some of these battles, because similar to how Walker White is recruiting, sometimes your best recruiting job is your best recruiting job, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean, landing a guy means I can get the next guy.
Right. Other
right?
guys
This
will
guy
follow suit.
Follow, right? You know how it was when we was in college, right? Nobody, when we had a girl, like, all the girls were around. When we have a girl, it was just like, hey, where they at? Right? If you can get these athletes to come in and give Auburn a look, and people are like, why is Mbakwe giving Auburn a look? Right? If I were on the fence, I'm thinking, maybe I go down there and take a look at what they're doing on the Plains. Now, we're talking about defense. So, on the other side of the ball, what Ron Roberts is doing is going to be really important.
Right.
I still believe it comes down to what do you put on the field? You've got a shutdown corner in DJ James. Right. I personally think turn DJ James into a Thorpe finalist and watch Mbakwe say, hey, man, maybe that's a spot I should land. Those guys know what they're doing with corners down there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't throw away the job that Zach Etheridge has done in being able to produce pros, and you absolutely can't throw away the job that Wesley McGriff has done in his career historically, being able to turn in pros. So I do think that we have a legitimate shot at anybody who's playing in the defensive backfield, just because we have at Auburn, even predating those two guys that I just named, well, Wesley McGriff on his second time around, but predating them, has had the premise or the ability to put guys who are in the defensive backfield into the NFL. And those guys have been perennial, contract guys, right? Like they've been to Super Bowls and won Super Bowl rings. Right. They've been guys who have been, touted as some of the best at their position. So it's not a foregone conclusion that a guy like that would give Auburn a look based upon what we know from our recruiters that are out there doing the work. Last guy we want to take a look at that has been making some noise as far as a potential flip has been Perry Thompson, the wide receiver from Foley, Alabama. Now, you guys have heard me say over and over again, Coach Hugh Freeze has a type. Perry Thompson is a Coach Hugh Freeze type of receiver. 6'4", 202 already coming out of high school. 6'4", 202. That's a big fella to be out there catching. Now, he's still kind of slim, but if he can move, he can move, right? So 6'4", Perry Thompson. Any thoughts on that young man?
Yeah. Again, Perry Thompson. You're looking at a kid, Foley, Alabama, 6'3". As you mentioned, Hugh Freeze has a type. He has a type at quarterback. He has a type at wide receiver for sure. And his systems have kind of been predicated on strong play at both those positions. Now he's produced some big time receivers, man. We've named them. You guys know who they are. Is Perry Thompson potentially in the mold of the next guy that he's trying to produce out of his system to start to show wide receivers that Auburn is a premier destination where you can come and catch the ball and make a name for yourself and go on to the next level? Auburn has struggled at wide receiver. Right. Now, there's tons of talent in this room. I love this room, but opportunities for the talent to show what they can do have been limited, severely limited. So get this kid on campus. I'm looking again. Marcus Davis is on this guy right now. Alabama obviously is committed to Alabama. And he's getting looks from the HBCUs in state, as well as, he's going to have his pick a program. So another 5-star kid. Again, we these recruits that we're talking about, 3 5-star kids. Traditionally, when you've looked at the recruiting list, Ike, and you know how they have it lined up on the website, it's like the 5-star column, the 4-star column, the 3-star column. So a bunch of 3 stars, a decent amount of 4 stars, and almost 0 5 stars year after year. Right. While other programs that are consistently in the top 5 land at least 1, if not 2 5 stars. Right. Auburn has to get in the mix for a guy like Perry Thompson, and at wide receiver, desperately where you need to begin a pipeline, right, for these kids. He's in state. Hugh Freeze, go get him. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's going to be the culmination of things now. Recruiting isn't what it used to be. It's going to be, what have we put on the field first and foremost? I was having this discussion, Ike, in one of the group chats that I'm in about NIL and the effect of NIL on recruiting. And I'm trying to explain to people, coaching and development still rules the day in college football. NIL may be the difference between the programs that you choose that do those things well, but not many kids are going to go to a bum-ass program because you gave them a bag. If you're a 5-star athlete, you
Yeah.
already have your choice. The bag is going to be there no matter where you go. You still
Right.
have to know what you're doing with the talent. Hugh Freeze showing that he has passing game competency, right? That he has a competent system that will allow a guy like Perry Thompson to come in and show off the 5-star athlete that he believes he is, that he's been rated as, that he's been told he is his whole life. It's going to be so important because we've got to stop the string of these high-profile athletes choosing Auburn and then busting out.
Right.
Right. It's you're a 5-star, man. Like the rating, a 0.9838 composite rating. This is supposed to be a can't miss prospect. This is why Alabama is consistently. It's why Nick Saban doesn't have to be the best on-field coach. He's going out and he's getting kids like this. Brian has made this point repeatedly. Right. X's and O's, sure. Right. But the Jimmies and Joes, he makes sure that he has enough of those that if they ever mess up on the X's and O's, Perry Thompson's going to bail me out.
Right.
Right. The next 5-star quarterback, the next Bryce Young, they're going to bail me out. How can Auburn begin the move toward landing the type of athletes that bail you out as a coach?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Winning championships is about planning, it's about hard work, it's about recruiting, but some of it is luck. And sometimes you need the players to just play football. You just need a guy that's better than the other guy.
Right.
And Perry Thompson is a guy who's been better than other guys his whole life.
Right.
Get him into your program, man, and start making some of these flips so that Auburn can start to compete at a high level. Hugh Freeze has said this. We're talking recruiting. I'll end on this. He said that if we are not consistently in the top 7 in recruiting by X date, everybody here is probably going to be looking for a job in a few years.
Right.
So he understands this. If anybody thinks Mike's saying Hugh Freeze is going to get, I think Hugh Freeze has said.
No, he understands what the climate
understands.
is around SEC football.
Yeah, he understands that he has to go out and land kids like Perry Thompson, or it's not going to work here. Right. And Oklahoma and Texas are coming, man. They're talking about 9-game schedules. This thing is about to get difficult.
Yeah. As if it wasn't hard enough
already.
You're right. With Auburn's schedule, it's not going to get any easier coming
coaching and development, man. Look what happened at Texas A&M. They got every can't miss prospect in the world in one recruiting cycle, and they missed.
Yeah.
Right? Because the development piece is lacking there. Outside of one good 2020 season, you paid a coach well north of $70-something million to come in and be lackluster in that area. Hugh Freeze can't afford that, man. His leash is not going to be that long. Now, I know Auburn's got to be sick of paying buyout money by now, but hopefully this is the end of the buyouts, right? No more buyouts. I want to see buy-in from these athletes when it comes to recruiting and getting, guys on the field that can compete with the Alabamas and the Georgias and now the surging LSUs of the world, as much as I hate to give Brian Kelly credit.
Right. Well, I mean, listen, as Hugh Freeze well knows, if he doesn't get this recruiting stuff right, he's going to be on the hot seat. But maybe he can hit up Harmon Mechanical to get his seat a little cooler. HVAC services from Harmon Mechanical Heating and Air is where you need to go if you're in the Auburn, Alabama area. Not just Auburn, Opelika, any of the surrounding areas. They'll come to you. Hit them up on their website to find out if you are in the service region where they want to be able to come out. You can give them a call also at 334-219-0717 to be able to set up an initial consultation for your HVAC system, and they will get you right in that respect. We are going to get you right in this comment section, talking to some of the wonderful and well-versed members of this War Report community who always have wonderful things to say. If you're in here and you haven't already done this, make sure you share the video at the War Report. Let us know that you've done that. Like the video, man. We've given you guys some nuggets of wisdom already this morning. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if it's your first time. Speaking of subscriptions to the channel, we already have somebody who has taken the leap and become a member. Brandon Carter, we appreciate you coming on board with membership. Hey, it's a good time to be on board. We got a lot of great membership perks coming. But let's jump into this comment section. We'll get it kicked off with, I have to read it because he super chatted, B. Will's Forehead, who says, who's ready for more full throat commits Yahtzee? Yeah.
Throw it up.
Yeah, all of that. Moving right along, Daniel Moultrie says, we're going to get Cam Coleman too. Cam Coleman has been rumored
Phoenix City kid
to be very interested in Auburn, right down the road at Phoenix City.
Right down the street from me. You know what? Matter of fact, after the drop, I'm gonna drive down to Central. And just be like, Cam, what's good, bro?
What's up, man?
My brother knows him, so we'll make
it happen, baby. Daniel Moultrie also thinking that we're going to flip Ryan Williams over from Bama. I think he's a Bama commit linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there. Jonathan Boyson says, what are Bama fans going to do if we flip Thompson and Mbakwe? I'm going to tell you what Bama fans are going to do. They're going to swear that it wasn't that big a deal and they're not that good. If we get one or both of those guys, are going to be like, well, he wasn't even all that good. He was just
it's going to be the most ridiculous thing anyway. I mean, you're talking. I mean, Perry Thompson is the number 2 kid in the state of Alabama, man. Like, everybody in the country wants this kid.
It's a wide receiver, right? Apparently. So I was very wrong about Williams. So there.
You're right. Again, you're talking about Mbakwe is the number 4 recruit in the state of Alabama. The we didn't want him anyway thing is just not going to fly here.
Yeah.
And KJ Bolden is the number 2 kid in the state of Georgia, right? Like, so this is not one of those things where a Bama fan or anybody can say we didn't want him. No, you wanted him, right? And if you didn't want him, you definitely don't want your rival to have him. So
that's still what they'll use as the excuse.
Yeah, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. These kids are good, and the talent, man, in state. It was already good. It's historically, it's getting better. It feels like year after year. There's some crop of recruits coming out of the states of Alabama and Georgia that are going to be game changers in college football, man. Guys that we're going to be talking about in the playoff and in the draft in a few years. So those are the kids we're talking about today that Hugh Freeze has to get in the mix for. So
for sure,
say what you want, man, but they want them.
Haley jumps in and says Walker White is that guy. Listen, man, I love what Walker White's doing out here.
He's Hugh Freeze's type. Like you said, I keeps trying to tell y'all Hugh Freeze has a type at quarterback. And if you look at Peyton Thorne, Walker White, and these kids that they're going after, man, they and even Holden, right? Mm-hmm. They all fit in a mold of quarterback that Hugh Freeze is looking for. I think
Hank Brown even fits into that.
No, I'm telling you, man.
Listen, man, he wants quarterbacks that, number one, even temperament, right? Like he wants a guy that he feels like has a cool head, a strong arm, even temperament, and intelligent, right? And I mean, who doesn't want a quarterback like that? I say all that to say he's not as much as people wanted to believe he prioritizes athleticism at the quarterback position because of Malik Willis. That's not his priority. That's a nice to have, not a need to have in this Coach Hugh Freeze system. He wants to get the ball out to playmakers.
Right.
If he has a playmaker at quarterback, that's even better, but that's not the number one thing of what he wants to be able to do in this system. That RPO system that he wants to run is not a read option situation all the time where the quarterback, it needs to be a runner. You need to be just dangerous enough to keep them honest, but you're not required to do that. Walker White fits the mold of that, a guy who can run, but doesn't need to. His arm can do the work for him, and that's what they want to be able to do in this system.
Facts.
Corey Weber jumps in. No shot with the guy from Pinson. He's just on a courtesy visit. Wow, Corey.
Yeah. We'll let the bag do the talking, Corey. We're gonna let the bag do the talking on this one. All right. I don't know, man. These guys are driving some pretty nice trucks from that Chevy dealership up there. Maybe there's a custom Chevy in it for them that might flip the script.
Listen, man, that's the name of the game, is flipping the script. So they're definitely going to do all they can to pitch the proper way. And listen, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then I think it's good to get the looks from these guys, because it's almost a signal to other people like, okay, what do they have going on down there at Auburn that this guy went and took a visit, right? So let me go see what's happening down there. Because listen, as much as we don't talk about this and we see it with the Walker White situation, these young men talk. They go to these Elite 11 camps and they go to these, all-star weekend type of things, and they talk about what their experience were like. So social media has those guys familiar with one another well before they get into college. They know each other. They watch each other's tape. They are out here planning strategic ways that they're going to team up. And if you get the right group of guys that say, hey, man, we all just going to go this way. We just talked about this last week when we were talking about basketball, and we were talking about Jalen Green and Sharif Cooper, right? they had already decided. Now, it didn't work out because Jalen Green decided he was going to pivot in a different direction. But Sharif and Jalen had already talked before and said, hey, we're going to go to Auburn and we're going to play at Auburn.
That's right.
All it takes is a couple of those guys in football to change that momentum and say, hey, man, we're going to move this way. And Walker White's trying to get as many of those guys in on that ship to say we're all going to move in this direction and change the landscape of what's happening.
You know
right
what's
now.
crazy is that this is where facilities come in, right? When you walk into the performance facility, I think for a lot of these guys, I've hung out with players there, and we've done press conferences there. Being able to come down to such an impressive building and kind of envision yourself hanging out with your teammates, right? It's a big ass clubhouse, man, where you can practice football, lift weights, chill out, study, do whatever you need to do. I think it's going to make a difference with a lot of these guys, right? Like, and they're still building some stuff up around there, Ike, man. So they're improving that building. I was, around Auburn earlier this week, and they were doing some construction in some places around there. But they're continuing to build the environment that these kids will envision themselves in. Also may make a difference. So like, Corey's saying no shot, and I get it, but you just be surprised, man. Like, there are so many different factors now the kids have to consider that it is going to be one of those things where, can he start to do the impossible, right? The no shot guys, wait, all of a sudden, the culmination when you put the whole package together, right? Here's our plan for you as an athlete, right? Here's our campus, here's our facility, here's your bag, right? And, and here's why you yourself and your family will be better if you choose Auburn University.
Right.
I just think there's an effective pitch that had been to put together that has not been utilized by the previous two coaches. Right. Yeah. Gus was able to get them, but he misidentified a lot and he missed on a lot. Right. And so those classes looked good, but they weren't as good as they looked on paper. Right.
Correct.
Harsin, same. He kind of got the performance facility. I think, I don't even know if it was finished under Harsin. Was it?
It was
like
finished.
after he got fired.
It was done. They just didn't open it up, right? Like it
was just they locked the door on him.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that Hugh Freeze has all these tools at his disposal, and if he can get in there, I've heard some stories about him in the living rooms of recruits in the past. Man, he's good with grandma. He's good with grandpa. Like he's a recruiter, man. He knows what he's doing. He's got recruiting competency unlike any other coach I think that Auburn has had in quite some time. I would almost say he's probably the best recruiter Auburn's had at coach in the last 20 years.
Early returns would say that that's probably true.
Yeah, right. So this is going to be one of those things where, Corey says no shot. I say pa fooey.
So listen, you know what's going to be big, right? Is if these young men who are verbal commits to some of these places don't sign during the early period, because that means that they're still given a look to see what else might be there.
Right.
So
that's right.
Early signing day is big for the guys that you've already got committed. But if there's guys that are committed to you but don't sign during the early signing period, and that includes guys that we have right now that are on our list, right? That will be on our list between now and then. If they don't sign during that early signing period, watch out for flipping.
Yeah, first half of the season is going to be super important, right? Because if you're on track to graduate early, you want to get into camp someplace, right? You want to compete in the spring. You want to get a head jump on strength and conditioning. You want to get into the system. You do not want to sit out the spring choosing a school if you can avoid it.
Right.
Right. So I think that will keep some of those kids out of that wait till February decision. But for the most part, for the guys who have a chance to commit early, what you put on the field in the first half of the season is now super important. Right.
And that's Pete Pass asked about that. Does the development of Falk and Lee show new recruits confirmation that they can play
100%? Right. Because when you go into their home, you have to be able to say, look, these guys came and they played. Right. Falk flipped and he played. Lee came and he played. And you can say anything to these guys, man. What you do is what they're going to be watching. Right. You are what you repeatedly do, man. So like if you are saying that, you can play early here to a lot of guys, and then you don't see any guys playing early, which you are as a liar, right?
Correct.
And so I think that Hugh Freeze getting those guys on the field, and it's all in what you're selling. You don't have to sell early playing time.
Right.
You definitely don't have to sell early playing time. I don't think that Saban is selling that in most cases now because of the amount of talent that he has. I don't think it's an effective pitch unless you are that dude, right? And even then, man, like it's just really difficult in a program where they have been good at creating pipelines and developing to promise a kid playing time when you clearly have somebody who's more developed and is in better position to step in early. You just have to be one of the most dynamic athletes ever, right? To walk into a program like that. That's not the position Auburn is in today. So maybe you can early use that pitch, but hopefully Hugh Freeze is moving away from that, as time goes on, because again, you have all these athletes in your pipeline that are stepping up and playing at the level that you expected them to play.
Yeah, but no, I agree 100% that what they show on the field with those young guys is going to pay dividends with new guys coming in as recruits. Because to your point, if you've sold them, if that's the reason why they came, or that was a big part of the recruiting pitch, again, these people talk. And if you pitched me on this and it doesn't manifest itself out there, and there's not a reason like, oh, the guy in front of me was just clearly better, right? We talk about this a lot. If it's even with a guy like Nehemiah Pritchett and Kayan Lee, they're going to play Kayan Lee, right? If they feel like they're close as far as their abilities are concerned, they're probably going to play the younger guy a lot earlier. They might let Pritchett go out there the first game, but they're going to play Kayan Lee if they feel like they're close as far as talent is concerned, because they need to show I'm giving the young guy a shot out here, and you've got him for longer. You got him in your system more. You're going to let him develop in the game. That's going to happen if it's close. If it's close, they're going to go with the younger guy more than likely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right. So we appreciate you guys dropping in with us today, as always, here on the Morning Drop. If you haven't already, give us your comments in the comment section after the video. As always, the Morning Drop is sponsored by RogueShop.com. Make sure you head over there using code RAPPORT. That lets them know your guys at the War Report sent you over here. We are out of here until tonight. We'll be back with the midweek report, talking a little SEC West football over and under. So come back tonight, 7 o'clock Central Time, to get in on the midweek report. Until then, and as always, War Eagle, we'll holler at y'all later. Peace.
Peace.